Hi, Geometry. This is Unit 1, Lesson 11. In this lesson, we're doing reflections on blank paper. So we're going to be using our handy-dandy compass and protractor. This note page, we're going to glue onto the page after 81. You'll notice the page after 81 is a blank page in our book. So if you're at home, you could pause this video and draw a similar picture to this and do the construction along with me at home. So step one, when I'm doing this construction, is that I have to construct a perpendicular line through the point. In this case, it's going to be through point C is what I'm going to work with first. So this is construction number 7 from the first half of our unit. So we are doing construction number 7. And I believe that's page 38 if you need to look that up. So I'm going to do all those steps with you. So first of all, we need to make a circle from C that goes past this line. So I'm going to set my compass to something smaller. It's a little big. That when my needle is on C, the radius is still past my line of reflection. And when I do this, I don't need the whole circle. I really need an arc. This arc is going to show me 2 intersection points. This is where my circle would intersect my line of reflection here and here. I need those 2 intersection points to now find a place over here, an intersection over here, to draw my perpendicular line through C. So my next step then is to measure the distance of my intersection points. I'm going to change my radius. And now I'm going to draw, when we did construction number 7, we would draw 2 big circles. We really don't need to draw 2 big circles. I really want an intersection point somewhere over here. So I'm actually going to draw just the top of this circle over here on the right side. You could draw this entire circle if you want. Sorry, my hand's in the way. You could draw the entire circle if you'd like, but I really just need this part of the circle. I want to see when I move my pointer to the other intersection point, I want to now draw a circle. And again, I really just need this portion of it. You could draw the whole circle if you'd like, but really I need this portion. I need to see where my 2 circles would intersect. So now that I've done that, I can line up this intersection point with point C. This is not my answer. So I'm going to do this in pencil because this is just my perpendicular line. So I'm going to draw my perpendicular line in here. And I know that my C prime, my reflection, is somewhere on this line. So the next thing I'm going to do is figure out where that somewhere is. So step 2 is I'm now going to measure from C to the line perpendicular. And once I get that measurement, I'm going to mark the same distance on the other side. So let's measure this distance to the line of reflection. So point C is this far away. I need to make this smaller. So it looks like point C is this far from the line of reflection. So C prime should be that same distance on the other side of my line of reflection. So on the other side, I'm going to mark that distance, and this is where my C prime will be. So C prime is this distance on the left. I'm sorry, C is this distance on the left. C prime is that same distance on the right. So usually at this point, I have a couple students get confused because C prime and their perpendicular line point are the same. This happens when you don't change your radius and it's fine. It's not an error. It's actually a shortcut. But I just want to point out that this point that I used to draw my perpendicular line in part one is not my C prime. Sometimes students think it is. It's important to know that your reflection is on a perpendicular path and it's the same distance on both sides. So let's do it again for A. So you can pause this video and try it on your own, or if you want to do it with me, here we go. I'm going to make an arc, a circle if you want, but I'm going to make an arc and my radius has to go past the line of reflection. So I'm going to make this arc and I'm going to note the two places where it intersects my line. I can tell in the video this is really light. Sorry, I'll make my next arcs darker. But this is the two places where my arc for A intersected my line of reflection. So at this point, I am not going to change my compass. I want to show you the shortcut I was talking about. So although my distance pretty much is the same, that's a coincidence. So I'm actually not on purposely changing my compass radius. I want to show you what happens when you leave it the same. So at this point, I'm going to put my needle on one of my intersection points, and I'm going to draw the portion of the circle that would be over here to the right. So I'm not going to draw the whole circle, although you could if you wanted to. I'm just going to draw this arc. I'm going to flip my compass to the other intersection point, and I'm going to draw this arc. Now, namely, this intersection point is step one. I really just found my perpendicular line. So this is me finding my perpendicular line that A prime is going to be somewhere on. Now, unlike the first time when I did C prime, this is actually going to be A prime. This is a shortcut because I didn't change my compass measurement. So I want to show you how that works. I'm still going to measure from point A to the perpendicular, to the line of reflection to find out where to mark it. So I'm going to measure from A to my line of reflection. And A prime should be the same distance on the other side. So when I flip it and I measure, what do you know? My original point is also my A prime. So I want to talk about this for a moment. If, like in construction 7, you reset your compass to the distance between your intersection points, that point you get is not your reflection. It just helps me draw my perpendicular line. If you don't reset your compass to your intersection points, if you keep it the same radius you used to make your arc, then this point and your image are the same. It's just kind of a nice thing to do to kind of be a little bit quicker on your constructions. So I have my A prime and I have my C prime. Remember, this is not part of my construction. And now I need to find my B prime. You could do these two steps again, doing an arc and then drawing a perpendicular line and measuring. However, my picture starts to get really busy. So I have a second method to find your B prime. I know that B prime should be this far from A prime. So I'm going to measure how far B is from A. I'm going to put my needle on A. I'm going to measure how far B is away. B prime should be that exact same distance away. So I'm going to take my compass, and now I'm not going to mark my arc here. B is a little farther away than A is. So I know B prime is somewhere over here. If I had to fold this along this line, my B prime is to the right of A. So I'm going to mark that distance to the right of A. My B prime is somewhere on that arc. To find out where it is, I'm going to measure how far B is from C. So I'm going to put my needle on C. I'm going to measure how far B is from C. That's how far B prime should be from C prime. I'm now going to put my needle on C prime and I'm going to draw that distance. Where my A prime arc and my C prime arc intersect is where my B prime is at. Remember, this initial intersection point is not part of my triangle. This was so I can make my perpendicular line. So now I'm going to connect my A prime to my B prime, my A prime to my C prime, and my B prime to my C prime. And I'm going to get my reflection across my line. Let's try this again. If you'd like to try this on your own, you're welcome to pause and stop this video and try it by yourself. Otherwise, if you want to do it with me, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is construct a perpendicular line through, in this case, I'm going to start with D. Through point D, I'm going to do construction number 7 from page 38. So I'm going to put my needle on D, and I'm going to set my radius to be something that goes across my line. So now I'm going to draw an arc. I could do the whole circle, but I really just need the part of the circle that crosses my line of reflection. I'm going to mark where my intersection points are. Now, this is my hint. Unlike when we did construction number 7, I would advise you not to change your compass to the distance between the intersection points. You're more than welcome to. But it's a nice shortcut that if I leave my compass the same measurement and I make an arc over here on the right side from one intersection point, and I make an arc from the other intersection point, where they intersect should actually be my D prime. So let's draw in my perpendicular line and see if that actually is where D prime should be. So remember, D prime should be the same distance on the right that D is on the left. So let's measure. It looks to be about this distance. So I'm going to go to the other side of my line and measure that. And what do you know? That's exactly where my D prime should be. So again, that's a nice shortcut. You should always be double checking your measurements, but that's a nice way to be a little quicker and have less arcs to worry about. This is correct, but I just find this method of not changing your compass to be kind of a nice way to do it. At this point, I'd like you to pause the video and do F and find where E prime, do F prime, find where E prime would be, and then come back and see how you did. Welcome back. You're probably done with your triangle. All I've done right now is found where F prime was. I made my arc. I did not change my radius. I arced from one intersection point. I arced from the other intersection point, and I found my F prime. So now I'm going to measure how far E is from F. That's how far E prime should be from F prime. It's this distance. So now I'm going to mark it not on the right side because E should be farther away. E should be over here on, I'm not on the left side, sorry. E should be over here on the right side. So I'm going to take that distance and arc it here on the left side. Then I'm going to measure how far E is from D. And then I'm going to mark that distance from D prime. That's how far E prime should be from D prime. Where those two measurement arcs intersect is where my E prime should be. So now I'm going to connect my F prime to D prime, my D prime to E prime, and my F prime to E prime. And this is my reflection of DEF over the given line. Thank you very much.